All right, push one in the chat if you can hear me. All right, thanks for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 598, Space and Tech Talk. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. There's a doc in the description beneath the video for you to follow along with. If you want to engage in this discussion, there'll be a link in the chat for you to click on. When you click on the link, make sure you raise your hand so that one of us can acknowledge you and advance you to the panel. Let me get the link. All right, let me get started right away because I know that a lot of other things going on right now within Black YouTube. So try to get through this as quick as possible. Let me give a shout out to the people who showed up first. Salchi, peace to you, and Engineering Cannabis, peace to you as well. All right, let me start with the first item on the docket from Black Enterprise. UK school hires 10-year-old Nigerian tech genius as its new coding instructor. This is something to behold. The tech field yields a large portion of high-paying salary jobs with numerous career paths. However, marginalized communities are shut out of these job opportunities due to the lack of resources and access. One remarkable young Nigerian girl managed to defy the odds and was recently hired by a school in the United Kingdom to teach others about coding. Emanuela Mayaki is a 10-year-old coding and programming prodigy who recently received her first job at the Southfield Primary School in Coventry, England. As the after-school coding club teacher, according to a Face-to-Face Africa, she will be responsible for teaching other kids her age about the basics of coding, including HTML and CSS. The school selected her for the job because of her extraordinary skill and knowledge in the area. Mayaki's passion for technology started at 7 years old, where in another 2 years, she would obtain a diploma with a specialty in multiple software programming, including advanced PowerPoint, desktop publishing, and advanced Excel. She is still actively learning other coding languages and programs to expand her knowledge even further. In the club, there are currently about 9 pupils. Hopefully, the club will increase its numbers in September, she said in an interview with Face-to-Face Africa. Today, my Academy app, among others, is already on Google Play Store, where I pass on knowledge of coding and graphics. I remember at age 7, I set a target to become a professional web designer and analyst at age 9, and I have accomplished it, she's added. In the first week, I was pretty nervous because I had never taught a group of children. Although my experience was sublime because I gained experience and also enriched my skills. My observations were that not everyone grasps how to do it on the first try, and there are some that they are rushed through it in a breeze. So, you know, I'm proud of her. I can't say anything negative about this at all. This is awesome. You know, I don't see how anybody can knock this. I'm surprised to see so many thumbs downs coming in. You know, when we first opened up the live stream, you know, people were thumbing down the video, the live stream before it even started. Just because a black girl was on, you know, the thumbnail, and we talk about black girl magic. This is sort of black girl magic that I'm talking about. Okay, I don't know about all this other stuff, but this is really magic, man. She set these goals and she reached them. How many guys in the manosphere are still picking their nose on live streams talking about things that are non-essential? Okay, you can't be a father and not look at this and say, I want my daughter to be just as excellent as this young Nigerian girl is. It's a shame to see so many men in the manosphere, you know, with thumb down a video like this. Absolutely crazy. We have Nagona 11 on the panel.
Hey, Mike, how you doing, man? What's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. You?
All right, man. Just falling in, man. Checking out what's going on.
All right. Yes, and so she's going to do great things, probably in the next 5 years. It wouldn't surprise me that she comes out with her own social media app and becomes a billionaire overnight. Okay, she's a future billionaire for all intents and purposes. It's just about timing. And the first part of the article, I think, is actually key. It says the tech field yields a large portion of high-paying salary jobs with numerous career paths. However, marginalized communities are shut out of these job opportunities due to the lack of resources and access. So this is key, okay? Lack of resources and access will kill opportunities. And so a lot of people have asked, what's going to happen, to the Black community, with fourth industrialization? Well, we have talked about this many times before. The McKinsey report of 2019 describes this impact of lack of resources and access. And so for a lot of people who are disconnected from these tech opportunities, because in these tech centers, mostly Black men, they will fall victim to this. Okay, this Nigerian girl, this Black girl, who was very fortunate to have been able to set these goals and actually achieve them. You have to start at that age, 5, 6, and 7. You can't wait till you're 35, 40 years old and try to compete against a 10-year-old girl. It's just not, it's not possible, man. They're just moving too fast. They absorb knowledge and information at a much rapid pace than an adult could. Okay. And so for somebody like this, I bet the future of the community on females like her and boys of the similar age. And this is exactly what we need. Okay. This is exactly what we need. A coding teacher, a coding instructor. That's amazing. Have to tip my hat to him. You got guys in the manosphere talking about game, and she's about to rewrite the whole entire game itself. Okay. Some of you guys are screwed out here.
But I think that's also a function of what's being pushed. We have to push a lot more of this type of thinking, this type of business, as opposed to some of the other just crazy stuff that we're talking. So we have to push a lot more a lot more of this. That's the only way that this is going to happen. Is when you start to push that, the younger kids start getting involved at a much, like you said, at a much younger age. And by the time, somebody like this starts to grow up and starts to move into their 20s or so forth, and yet they've been involved with this type of thing since they were very, very, very young, you're not going to have a lot of people who are going to really compete with you that way. So we really do have to push this as opposed to some of this other just madness we're talking out here. That makes very little sense. Go ahead, Mike.
Now, you volunteered at the Harlem Children's Zone.
That's exactly correct.
What does the Harlem Children's Zone consist of?
As far as it consists of about, let me take a look at it. Spots around the city, about 50 different small schools around the city. That actually, and the Harlem Children's Zone itself, it actually consists of you have teachers, literally a teaching institution, schools. You have actually tutors and assistants who can come over and help out with them. Now, there's a process that you have to go through, do a background check, and they do a lot of different things like that to really see, that you don't have any criminal problems or any problems working with kids or anything else like that. I believe some of it this does require a degree in the programs, either a teaching certificate or at least a degree, but some people may not, depending on what areas that they're going into. And it's a state-sponsored, municipally-sponsored program that helps by Dr. Jeffrey Canada, who actually is involved with educating children at an early age and putting them into advanced teaching programs for them who moving into junior high school and actually moving into or middle school or moving into high school with a very advanced type of teaching platform. And the zone itself is are a series of small schools that are engaged with this teaching program that is basically performance tuned. It's an enterprise-wide program that teaches pretty much exactly the same way at each participating school or, let's say, institution. That really keeps these kids at the top levels of education, meaning that we know how to teach kids, we know how to teach, tutor, and train kids to do very well in school and scholastic performance. So that's what it is. It's a drop in the bucket. You may have about 40 to about 60,000 kids or so involved with this, which may seem like a lot, but in New York City, we have a few million students. This is a very small thing. I wish it was, put around all around the rest of New York City. I would pray that something like this would be enterprise wide, really, as far as when I say enterprise wide, throughout the whole New York City school system. But it kind of isn't. It's only adopted, in Harlem and in the Bronx, primarily. That's what you see. And this is Jeffrey Canada's program that he has put together specifically, and then he does have his school there by PS 26 in Harlem and 125th Street on Lexington Avenue, and these guys are doing. I don't know what else to say as far as school excellence. It's probably one of the best programs we have in the country. And the kids there perform at levels pretty much beyond almost any other school system or any other institution that we have anywhere in the country. So looking at kids that are involved with this who are high achieving students, getting into very great schools and going into high schools and doing exceedingly well, and and going to college and having great experiences. And the teaching is what's very key, because if you're going to be involved in this program, not only are your kids, are the kids involved, of course, who were chosen, doesn't cost them any money. And you have to have your parents have to be involved. So even the single mom or whoever you have in there, they have to be involved. That's a requisite of being involved. And you have to sit there with parent and teacher meetings and going through the school curriculum exactly of what they're learning and their homework and everything else like that. When they come into any one of these institutions, they have to be dressed, appropriately, a shirt, tie, and the whole deal. So they have a whole dress code, and the whole game is really about, not only just performing academic excellence, but a protocol, a way about how you actually also pursue excellence, of which the whole dress code and all that's about as well. So it's a whole frame of mind that they really put, not you, but the family into, to succeed. And the work is challenging. It's at fairly high levels. And, they're outperforming all the best white schools and everything else like that. They're just killing it. You don't hear much about it. You hear very little about it these days, which I think is a sin, is a sin. So I don't believe that they really want people to know about how well we're doing with this. And they want these schools to be poorly run, poor performance, and keep the high performing schools and so forth down and keep them, away from the public. Because I believe that there's a lot of money involved in consistently saying that you are an inferior kind of group, you're inferior people, you're inferior in education, you're inferior this. And, the media scrum and everything else like that plays behind that. I think there's a lot of money behind that, but that's obviously not true. Many of us have bought into it ourselves, and we just don't have enough information about this in the media per se. In the media, this is something that should really be put out there. But and we know that it works, and we know just how well the students are doing. So that's primarily what it is. But there, quite a few spots around in Manhattan and in the Bronx, also a few in Brooklyn that are part of what they call the Harlem Children's School Zone that participate in this program, and they're getting stellar results, and the teachers are very, 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 very aggressive with respect to teaching their children. I'll say this also: there are no real white teachers in there, no Beckys. It's Black women and Black men, and our kids absolutely do better underneath of those conditions as well. You have one or two Latinos. I have a couple Latinos also in some of the other areas, but it is exactly what we need. So we know how to teach our children. We know how to teach them to do exceedingly well. We know this. It's not a question about us trying to figure it out. We know exactly how to do it. It just needs to be adopted at a much broader, wider level. And there would be some resistance to it, because that means you would be doing so well that others would not be doing as well, and they would try to stop you. And that's kind of what we're seeing in some other areas that are trying to adopt some of this. So I don't know what else to tell you, but there is resistance to you doing well, believe it or not. But that's where we are. I've been involved with this for a few years. One of my good friends of mine who I met, actually at my gym back in 2012, got me involved with it. He's involved with it with his STAR tutorial program that's funded as well, and and they have a working relationship with the zone, and we've had some accredited tutors that have been put in there, and I've just been an assistant tutor who's come in and helped out on occasion. They're actually the only thing that you have to have really is a background check, and really making sure that you don't have any criminal activity or anything else like that in your background, and no issues with respect to any child issues or anything else like that, which and in the background, either in the sciences, math, or languages, or reading, and that's it. And we see that when you back up and you support your people a lot with education, your kids do very well. They do very well. He said, we know how to educate our kids. So, we know how to do it, and we know how to do it superlatively. And we need to, adopt these types of programs enterprise-wide. I wish there are a few that exist around the rest of the country, but you don't hear much about them. So all these people, oh, you Negroes, you can't do this, you can't do that, and you even hear Black people saying that. I just don't listen to them, because I know that they don't know what's really going on. But anyway, hopefully that explains a little bit about what's happened.
Yeah, thanks for that. Let me go to the New York Times. Next item on the docket: meet the three spacecraft heading to Mars this summer. The summer 3 missions are setting out on a journey of millions of miles. Bound for Mars, the trio carry an array of state-of-the-art instruments to explore the red planet. The Hope orbiter launched on July 19th. Hope was the first spacecraft to launch to Mars this summer and the first Mars mission for the United Arab Emirates. The orbiter will observe Mars from space, forming a detailed picture of the planet's atmosphere and its weather with a suite of imaging devices. Sorry. A camera will capture high-resolution images of the planet. An infrared spectrometer will study dust, ice clouds, water vapor, and temperature in the lower atmosphere. And an ultraviolet spectrometer will investigate carbon monoxide, hydrogen, and oxygen in the upper atmosphere. So this is a picture of the satellite. 6-foot antenna to communicate back with Earth, thermal blanket, solar panels, the higher definition camera, infrared spectrometer, ultraviolet spectrometer. So weighs as much as a car, so 3,000 pounds. The Tianwen-1 launched on July 23rd. China is sending an orbiter, lander, and rover to Mars, the only mission this year to attempt a 3-pronged exploration. After the spacecraft reaches Mars, the landing pod will detach from the orbiter and descend to the planet's surface. The orbiter will remain in space and observe the planet using 7 instruments. A parachute attached to the lander's protective shell will slow the descent. Next, a set of struts will deploy midair. A thruster attached to the bottom of the lander will also help guide the vehicle to a softer landing. Once on the surface, a ramp will slide out of the rover, so the rover can drive away. The rover has 2 sets of solar panels wings that will unfurl after landing. This is amazing, in my opinion, because it's a hat trick. You're making an attempt to do 3 different things all at once. I don't know how they went about testing this over time, because you don't have the same sort of atmosphere. I guess you can kind of simulate it, but this is a feat for someone who has never done it before. And then you have Perseverance planned for July 30th. The NASA mission includes a Perseverance, a 2,200-pound rover, and Ingenuity, an exceptional Mars helicopter. The Ingenuity helicopter weighs about 4 pounds and will be the first to attempt powered flight on another planet. Perseverance rover design is based on Curiosity, a successful NASA mission that landed on Mars in 2012. The plutonium power supply is designed to last more than a decade. The rover carries 19 cameras and a drill to extract core samples from the rocks. Perseverance also uses a suspension system to drive over obstacles. The rover can turn a full 360 degrees in place using 6 individually motorized aluminum wheels. So this is more like an ATV than anything else. On top of the fact that it comes with a little drone copter, something that nothing of this feat has been done before. So I'm very interested to see how this actually works out, considering that the other rovers actually got stuck. I don't know what the status is on them now. I haven't really followed up on it, but definitely interested in the engine and the power supply. So the ability to use nuclear energy to drive something like this is actually pretty interesting.
Wow, that's really interesting. It's funny because I was just thinking about the Zone last year, maybe a year before. They were doing modeling of various types of spacecraft and so forth in some of their science and technology classes of which they had, and they were doing this type of thing, doing modeling of this stuff. Because STEM is pushed very heavily there as well. And I'm just looking at this saying, wow, I don't know what else to say except that I think we are naturally inclined for this type of thing. So, wow, I'm just looking at that. And I'm like, yeah, these kids were on top of this kind of thing. So we are naturally inclined towards this. So that's why we should be pushing ourselves deeply in this area, because I think we would do exceedingly well in it.
Mm-hmm. All right, next item on the docket is from TechCrunch. More evidence of increasing militarization of space as U.S. claims Russian satellite weapon tests. The U.S. Space Command has released details about an alleged anti-satellite weapon test it suspects suspects of Russian of conducting using an existing probe already on orbit. This is so poorly written. The Russian satellite in question is the same one that made headlines back at the beginning of 2020 when it seemed to be tailing an existing orbital U.S. spy satellite. That same spacecraft appears to have deployed some kind of projectile, according to Space Command, which monitors objects that are currently in orbit around Earth. General John Raymond of U.S. Space Command told The Verge that this represents further evidence of Russia's continuing efforts to develop and test space-based systems, pursuing a strategy that could put U.S. and allied in space assets at risk. You always find these sort of statements interesting because, like, putting other U.S. and allied assets in space at risk. Well, so what should Russia be doing, right? What should any other country be doing? Should they like not be in space? Like, what should they be doing? Because we know that the United States is in space, so why wouldn't Russia be in space, right? I always find these kind of statements very interesting, and the conversation is always aimed at, well, they're doing stuff in space. Well, what should they be doing? Like, they were the first ones to go into space. Why shouldn't they be there? Like, what were you expecting?
Well, what is it? Is that we just want to control? We want to control. We want to have hegemony in space as well. I think that's what we're really talking about, and I don't see how we're going to fully be able to control that. We can weaponize space and have these space wars, but I don't see how that's going to stop anyone from really doing what they want to do in space. I don't see that stopping anyone. Certainly not going to stop Russia.
Right. All right. Next item on the docket is from Engadget. NASA will deploy a huge stratospheric balloon to study newborn stars. It will make detailed 3D maps of gases around the giant stars. This should be interesting. NASA plans to send an 8.4-foot telescope into the upper stratosphere aboard a football stadium-sized balloon. ASTRO's Astrophysics Stratospheric Telescope for high spectral resolution observations at sub-millimeter wavelengths. Try saying that 3 times fast. We'll study the gases around newly formed giant stars by observing the far infrared light they emit. The goal is to set a clearer idea of how star formation and supernova explosions affect their surrounding materials. Far infrared wavelengths are normally blocked by our atmosphere, so Atheros will need to reach an altitude of 24.6 miles or about 130,000 feet. Getting that high up with the telescope payload requires a helium inflated balloon around 400 feet wide, NASA said. The telescope itself consists of an 8.4-foot wide dish antenna, along with mirrors, lenses, and detectors designed to capture far infrared light. Because the far infrared telescopes need to be kept cold, it will also carry a cryo cooler that keeps the detectors close to negative 451.3 degrees Fahrenheit, just a shade above absolute zero. The telescope will observe 4 targets, including star-forming Carina Nebula, in the Milky Way. It will measure the motion, speed, and density of gases surrounding newly formed stars and check for the presence of certain types of nitrogen ions. These nitrogen ions can reveal places where winds from massive stars and supernova explosions have reshaped the gas clouds within these star-forming regions, NASA wrote. These outbursts create something called stellar feedback that can either prevent or accelerate star formation. By learning more about the process, the team hopes to gain insight into how stellar feedback works and to provide new information to refine computer simulations of galaxy evolution. The Theros is designed to make 2 or 3 loops around the South Pole over 3 to 4 weeks, carried by stratospheric prevailing winds. This is going to be interesting. I mean, the image looks pretty cool itself. But I imagine, you know, all these rocks and things that are floating around in space. I wouldn't be surprised if this thing gets punctured by one of these flying debris out there. So, I mean, they have to plan for contingency, contingency plans for something like that to happen. If it did, that would suck. Let me see. Let me advance this person coming in. We have DE Raptor on the panel. All right, next item on the docket is from CNET. Self-replicating Chernobyl mode could protect the ISS from space radiation. Pretty soon, the United States is going to look just like this. Probably in about 20 years from now. Chernobyl. NASA is planning to return to the moon in 2024 and potentially establish a permanent human presence there by the end of the decade. There are still a lot of logistical hurdles to jump over, but there's an even bigger, more human issue. Space wants to kill you. Damaging space radiation poses a threat to astronaut health. If humans are going to spend extended time in space and head to planets like Mars or beyond, we'll need to protect ourselves from it. The Earth's magnetic field and atmosphere shield us from radiation while we're down here. But as we head out into the cosmos, our safety blanket disappears. Astronauts of the Army International Space Station receive more than 20 times the normal amount of radiation than Earthlings receive in a year. To protect astronauts, scientists have been studying an unusually hardy organism discovered in one of the most radioactive places on the planet, Chernobyl. The explosion that blew a hole in the number 4 reactor at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in 1986 was devastating. In some parts of the planet, the level of radiation spiked so high that exposure would kill a human in about 60 seconds. But several species of fungi have been discovered in the reactor, and they are thriving, feeding on the extreme levels of radiation. A new study yet to undergo peer review was published on the preprint repository Biorexic on July 17th and examines one of these species, Cladosporum. It suggests that let me move to something else. It suggests the fungi could be used as a self-healing, self-replicating shield to protect astronauts in deep space. Specialist science publication New Scientist reported on the findings on July 24th. Researchers placed the fungi aboard the ISS for 30 days and analyzed its ability to block radiation. Fungi like C contain a pigment known as melanin, which can absorb radiation and turn it into energy.
Oh, what was that called?
Melanin. The researchers set up a petri dish with two sides. On one side, a control containing no fungi. On the other, C. Underneath the petri dish was a radiation detector. For 30 days, the detectors measured radiation every 110 seconds. The proof of concept study shows that the fungi was able to adapt to microgravity and thrive on radiation. It was able to block some of the incoming radiation, decreasing the levels by almost 2%. One of the major advantages the researchers write is the fungi self-replicates from microscopic amounts. You would only need to spend a small amount to orbit, give it some nutrients and let it replicate, forming a biological radiation shield. With some tweaking, the fungi could be used to shield bases on the moon or Mars. It's a long while. It's a long while until we put boots on the red planet, but the groundwork is being paid now. Being laid now. July has been a big month for Mars exploration. So I always find this interesting that we have to be wary about going out in space because of radiation and this, and that. But I mean, they bragged about going to the moon. What happened to that?
Well, they did get exposed, from my understanding from the trips, that there was exposure to radiation, but it was only for short periods of time, and they had to use lead shields because they ultimately saw that some of the people who were actually in the craft, they started getting these flashes in their eyes, and they saw that these were radioactive, like isotopes coming through that were hitting them, and they had to have lead shields inside that they actually had to kind of protect themselves from that. So they were fully aware that radiation was going to be there because they knew there were actually going to be there's no atmosphere. So in space, there's no atmosphere. So there's nothing to absorb any of the radiation. And even on the moon, that there is no atmosphere there. So there's nothing that's going to shield you there either. So they did understand that they did have to have this. And that's why they didn't really also want to be in direct contact with the sun, because there was nothing that was going to block, because the sun now doesn't have a block on it. So there's no atmosphere there to shield you actually even from the sun's rays. So as soon as the hot sun would open up on you, it would just cook you as well. So there were a lot of issues that they talked about. And Wally Schirra and some of the other astronauts who were there spoke about this openly, because there was always a big kind of question. Well, the moon shot was a hoax and all this kind of stuff. And you hear all of that stuff going on even today, where they actually saw the mirrors that they put there on the moon to that reflects back the laser that they have here at one of the observatories that actually help to actually measure time or keep time as closely as perfect as you can. And you got the mirrors that are on the moon, and how did those get there, and a whole lot. So anyway, there's a lot of even questions about the moonshot, which I think is pretty funny, but technique stuff was important.
We got Jay and Salchi on the panel. What's going on, man?
How's it going, guys?
Good evening.
Chilling, man. Chilling. Put some volume on your mic, please.
What's going on, buddy?
Nothing much. Yeah, I just wanted to add in, radiation in space is very dangerous. Not only for human beings, but for electronics.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, for like the projects I work on, every component has to be analyzed by a component engineer. And exactly. I mean, millions are spent just on radiation testing on components.
Yeah. Yep. And everything had to be reinforced or protected or so forth. So we've known this for a while. The Russians knew this as well.
So the earlier missions had it easy because vacuum tubes are inherently radiation hardened.
Right.
But the issue they found in the 70s when they started going to solid state electronics is that spacecraft were just failing out of nowhere, and they didn't know what was going on. And eventually they realized that radiation was causing failure.
Right.
Yep. But I'm saying this information has been out there. It's been out there for a bit, and they always looked at radiation. Radiation was always looked upon as a problem, and they had to have some answers for it.
In fact, I don't know if you guys are. Sorry.
No, I said, and they found that shielding was quite important, especially not only you're talking about for electronics, but for people, it was critical that they had to have when they were going into just going out into space, because you have no atmosphere. Your atmosphere basically protects you, and if you don't have the atmosphere around you, you can be cooked by radiation, or even just the sun itself with no protection on it, just shining on you like in midday, that type of sun shining on you that close, and you are not shielded by anything. You will be burnt to death, burnt to a crisp.
And not to mention cosmic rays.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. That was coming through the that's what they were coming through, and they were hitting and the pilots were the astronauts were seeing these flashes in their eyes. They didn't know what it was. And then until they realized it was some of the cosmic, rays, that were hitting them, and it was that was somewhat problematic, and they had to, shield themselves for a while to keep that from being bombarded, from them being bombarded by those. So yeah, space is a pretty dangerous environment. You have to really protect yourself out there.
Finish your statement, Jay.
Oh no, I was just going to mention the South Atlantic anomaly. You guys are interested, it's where the Earth's radiation belts come the closest to sea level. And they find that a lot of electronics fail around that area. And satellites in low Earth orbit around that part of the world, like they have a higher failure rate. It's around Brazil, Argentina, it's around South America.
Yeah.
Well, the same one of the locations where we have the biggest hole in the Earth atmosphere?
No, this one is due to the Van Halen belts. Like they pass very close to the Earth at this point.
A lot of the Earth atmosphere in the south, especially, is practically gone.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Over Australia, like the ozone hole.
Yeah, but it doesn't stay in one place. It moves around.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't familiar with that.
Oh, okay.
I didn't realize they were related to radiation belts in the ozone.
No, let's go to Salchi. You have anything you want to add, Salchi?
Well, I was wondering why not focus more on sending drones out, not those big drones, but more of the drones that they're already working on now, instead of trying to get humans that deep in space, knowing that clearly, we don't have the tech, or maybe we may never have the tech to actually physically be there. Why not focus more on drones getting out there?
Well, you're not going to develop the tech unless you send humans out there, because it's like protecting like a lot of the medical instruments we have, not directly but indirectly from war. Trying to save soldiers' lives, trying to protect soldiers. We get a lot of our medical knowledge from that. And the same thing you get from going to space. You get a lot of knowledge from trying to protect the human life that's going out there. So they come up with a lot of technologies to protect human life and the instruments that they're going out there with, so they can get back home.
Can I add something?
I actually think we have the technology.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Jay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. I mean, we already send drones out. I mean, New Horizons, Cassini, Voyager. Those are drones. They're mainly autonomous. Because remember, you're not in constant communication with them.
Yeah, but there's some
you might only contact them like once a month or once every couple of months.
Yeah, but if you got a man out there, you got a man out there that you can call him and say, "Hey, why don't you do this?" instead of letting that instrument continue working on this one specific area that we send it out there to do, why don't you make an adjustment to this instrument so it can measure, say, more radiation or in a different spectrum? And if you got a man on board, you don't have to send a second drone or a second satellite or whatever the case might be.
I think we have to certainly to go to Mars and so forth. I believe technology is there. I just think that we've signed off so much money and things, and there's really, a lot of war in the military and the military complex and so forth, as opposed to putting it towards that. I think we've taken our eye off the ball on that. I know we did have some setbacks, especially back in '86 with the catastrophic failure, of the space shuttle and so forth. And then we had another explosion some years later in the early 2000s where that famous Israeli pilot was killed and all that in that one. So we've had some F-ups that I think have slowed us up a little bit, and we don't really want people. We don't want people dying. I think is what publicly I think is a problem. That's something that we have. But unfortunately, if we're going to make these forays into these areas, these people are going to have to put themselves at risk, and unfortunately, some are going to have to die behind this. But I do believe we have the technology to take care of that, to deal with that today. I do believe we have it. I just don't know if the will is there. Because we certainly have the money. I mean, 2.3 trillion is unaccounted for out of the Iraq war. 2.3 trillion dollars, unbelievable amount of money that's unaccounted for by the Congressional Budget Office, by the CBO. So that kind of certainly helps to get you to Mars. No question about that. So we certainly have the resources and all that we need to do it. It's just the will of I think of making this happen. But I think the technology is there.
All right, let me jump to this next item on the docket from TechCrunch. Waymo is Fiat Chrysler's next big project is develop self-driving Ram vans. Waymo and Fiat Chrysler automobiles have inked a deal to develop and test autonomous cargo vans and other light commercial vehicles designed to shuttle goods. The agreement is an expansion of a partnership that kicked off 4 years ago with focus on self-driving Pacifica hybrid minivans meant to transport people. The deal is the latest example of Waymo's efforts to build out the delivery arm of its autonomous vehicle technology business. The two companies said the initial plan is to integrate Waymo self-driving stack, the suite of software and hardware that allows the vehicle to operate without a human behind the wheel, into FCA's Ram ProMaster vans. These self-driving cargo vans will be used by Waymo via the company's trucking and local delivery service. However, it appears that the teams of the deals, the terms of the deal could be extended, could extend far beyond Waymo via. It's possible that FCA could supply other transport companies with these self-driving vans through a licensing deal. The company said the partnership covers FCA's entire portfolio of vehicles. The agreement between FCA and Waymo also extends to the future affiliates, according to those familiar with the partnership. This point matters because FCA and French automaker group PSA are in the process of merging into a newly formed corporation called Stellantis. If the 50-50 merger closes as expected in the first quarter of the next year, the agreement would theoretically include all brands that fall under Stellantis. As broad as the Waymo FCA agreement might be, the automaker has sought out other partners in the autonomous vehicles industry in varying capacities. FCA's approach to rapid advancement of autonomous vehicle technology is to focus on the vehicle side needs while establishing smart and strategic collaborations that promote a culture of innovation, safety, and know-how, the automaker previously told TechCrunch. Last year, FCA and autonomous vehicle technology startup Aurora announced a partnership that was also focused on light commercial vehicles. FCA said it had signed a memorandum of understanding with Aurora, an agreement that has since run its course, a spokesperson said. The two companies are still working on custom-built Pacifica hybrids, which Aurora is using in the test in its testing, but They are not co-developing autonomous commercial vans. Over the last 18 months, Aurora and FCA have collaborated closely in specification, design, and the development of custom-built specificas into which we've integrated the Aurora driver, Aurora said in an email statement. Aurora looks forward to deploying our self-driving solution on FCA's passenger and commercial vehicles. So, Too Simple, which is another autonomous truck, self-driving truck company, handles the 18-wheelers. But at this point, Waymo is looking at these sort of Amazon Prime sort of shipment commercial vehicles. And so what does this really mean? In reality, they want these vans to be autonomous for commercial purposes. You imagine receiving like parcels from UPS or FedEx or something like that. They're going for the gusto on this, okay? They'll develop the technology stack, like it says in the article. Chrysler will develop the vans, the necessary commercial vehicles, and then somebody like FedEx and whoever does hot shotting, they're going to get into this. It's about controlling the technology, not so much about putting people behind the wheels, but controlling the technology.
Hey, Mike.
Yes, sir.
The one big problem I see with this is the cannabis industry with the delivery system. Now, if you can go into automation of the delivery system, you basically own that whole industry at that point. So it's a win and a loss in terms of licenses for African Americans or people of color, but a win if you're quickly into automation of basically these kind of trucks for delivery systems in the cannabis industry.
Well, I think you can probably come up with a locking mechanism. I don't know what the stipulations are for supply chain logistics and cannabis at this point. My understanding is that somebody has to be there to protect the supply.
Track and trace system. You basically to enter a track and trace system, but you can automate that to basically do the automation of track and trace itself. So yeah, you can automate most of the systems with the help of the truck itself.
Yeah, but if the truck fails and the vehicles will fail, you have to have a human there to account for it.
Yeah. But also, most industries I've worked in usually don't have to, you always have a backup system.
Right.
If one fails, the other backup picks up.
I guess engineering cannabis is acting like a baby now. Wow.
Yo, what was that? I just wanted to ask.
You know, like self-driving vehicles. Wow.
You'll be all right with that.
It's hilarious. Well, why can't wouldn't it make more sense for security companies? I would say like a Brinks.
Because there's no profit in it for them, right? Brinks really, you know, their bread and butter is what they do now.
Yeah.
The lower companies coming in will actually undercut them. Yeah, they would undercut them majorly. It would have to turn profit for Brinks, and if I can get Sauchi's armed parcel delivery service to deliver my cannabis supply, you know, for a fraction of the cost, what would be the point of Brinks?
But I mean, you already make. I mean, it could be dangerous, of course. It's all dangerous regardless. But I mean, you're already making these routes anyway, so it's just logistics.
Yeah, but
to
money.
add it as an addition.
Yeah, but paper money is going away, right? So
yeah.
When's the last time you seen a Brinks truck?
Some weeks ago.
Weeks, right? Weeks.
Yeah, exactly. I don't see it regularly. Yeah, you're right.
If you're moving cannabis every day, you know, I don't know if Brinks would be the optimal supplier, you know, for moving product, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Right, you would have an armored vehicle, no different than you know, a ProMaster van like you see there. It's just be armored, and you would have armed guards around it.
Okay.
Because I, you know, and we talked about this before. I think he came on a show one day last year. But I met a brother at one of these Black entrepreneur events, and he's involved in the cannabis logistics part of the business, and you know, he's armed, he's licensed, and basically operates as a security contractor. But he's looking at the shipment of cannabis. He's involved in that part of the industry, and so he's looking at all this, and he can undercut a lot of those other businesses because he has the vehicles, or access to basically rental vehicles, U-Haul trucks and stuff like that, Penske and stuff like that. He's armed. Yeah, he just puts a lock on the back of it and calls it a day. As long as it's secure, that's all that matters.
Okay.
Let me jump to the last item on the docket. This is from TechCrunch. Ford to use Boston Dynamics dog-like robots to map their manufacturing facilities. It's crazy, but that's game though. That's game. Ford is going to employ 2 of Boston Dynamics Spot robots, which are 4-legged dog-like walking robots that weigh roughly 70 pounds each, to help them update the original engineering plans for one of the transmission manufacturing plants. The plants, Ford explains, have undergone any number of changes since their original construction, and it's difficult to know if the plans they have match up with the reality of the plants as they exist today. The Spot robots, with their laser scanning and imaging capabilities, will be able to produce highly detailed and accurate maps that Ford engineers can then use to modernize and retool the facility. There are a few benefits that Ford hopes to realize by employing the Spot robots in place of humans to map the facility. First, they should save a considerable amount of time, as they replace a time-intensive process of setting up a tripod and with a laser scanner at various points throughout the facility, and spending a while at each location manually capturing the environment. The Spot dogs are roving and scanning continuously, providing a reduction of up to 50% of terms of actual time to complete the facility scan. Wow. The robot dogs are also equipped with 5 cameras as well as laser scanners, and can operate up to 2 hours, traveling at around 3 miles per hour continuously. The data they collect can then be synthesized for a more complete overall picture, and because of their small size and nimble navigation capabilities, they can map areas of the plant that aren't necessarily reachable by people attempting to do the same job. This is a pilot program that Ford is conducting using 2 Spot robots leased from Boston Dynamics. But if it works out the way they seem to think it will, you can imagine that the automaker might seek to expand the program to cover other efforts at more of its manufacturing facilities. This is interesting. There's so many applications that can be used for this. I'm thinking, you know, the moon. I'm thinking Mars. I'm thinking, you know, battlefield from the military, from a military contractor. Anybody have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, this goes back to one of you guys made a point about why don't we send drones on space exploration missions?
I
mean, I think this speaks to it.
Yeah.
I mean, this would be better suited, I think. I mean, it's already replacing humans on Earth in a factory.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
why couldn't
this
they
is
do the same
exactly
thing
what I
on
was talking
Mars?
about.
And furthermore, a human can see what visible color spectrum, limited in speed, can't handle radiation.
Yeah.
You can put an IR camera, UV camera, whatever you want on this robot and send it.
Yeah.
you know, with some machine learning capabilities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of
So
Instead
Mike,
of risking a human life, you know.
yes.
oh, what's the question again? I just want to hear it.
No, the question was any thoughts on applications of using a Boston Dynamics Spot robot like this, the dog
Oh,
Spot.
oh my God. Yeah, I'm sure somebody else wants to answer, but I'll answer after they go. Go ahead. Who's next?
No,
I
you're
mean,
not.
this is what I was referring to basically.
Mhm.
Instead of, you know, human beings, I mean, maybe there could be 3 points out, of course. I mean, I'm not an astrophysicist, but 3 points out, obviously, as far as, you know, it's safe for humans to go out, where the humans can communicate back and forth with Earth and the drones as, you know, the technology for drones advances. That's
Mhm.
more so what I was thinking about. I mean, maybe not in our lifetime, humans will be able to reach out there, but at least for now, is that a possibility? That was my reference. But then he started talking about the radiation, the electronics, and I was like, maybe not.
No, I mean, it's already autonomous. I mean, like I said, you
Yeah.
can't communicate with these spacecraft unless you have line of sight. So they're pretty much doing their own thing most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 Oh, go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
No, Mike, go ahead. No, you can say a point and I'll go right after you. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that something like this could have multiple tools on it, because it moves faster than the big 3,000-pound rover, right? You know, that big thing about the size of a Volkswagen. That thing is massive. You send a dozen of these things up there on each and every. They have their own mission. You know, their individual missions set up for themselves. You can get a lot of work done with something like that, considering that they're more agile and don't weigh so much. You know, they have their own individual tasks. Go ahead.
Yeah, and you're talking about the moon specifically, or are you talking about Mars?
Mars.
Mars, absolutely. You should be sending up a few. So just in case one or a couple don't make it, because Mars has been shown a little bit difficult to hit, and when we've hit it,
you can send a dozen of them. They're 70 pounds each, right? And let's say we plated them with some kind of way to shield them from radiation and stuff like that. Okay, they weigh 100 and something pounds. Even at that sort of weight, they're still considerably lighter than a rover.
Yeah, considerably lighter, and they can move quicker. They could be more agile, and then the more you have, the better opportunity you have at getting more information and better data, a better look. And then if we have one or two or a couple that might get destroyed, okay, so you gotta figure that into the equation as well. You have to figure that you at least would have a few others that are going to actually make it and do all right, and still, your mission will be accomplished. Before we start sending people up there, we definitely are going to have to send robots and drones up there first to really, scale things out. And then I think when the real serious super duper types of in-depth, how would I say, real in-depth examinations of the planet will be done by people. But before we can even get people up there, I think these robots are going to play a very key role, just like we sent the rovers there. And, I think we had, the rovers have done okay. They've had some failures with them. We certainly didn't have enough. And then I think we had 6 shots that went up there, only 3 made it. So, like I'm saying, it would be within our interest to have, quite a few lighter, more effective types of robotic systems up there to do the type of tasks that we want them to do before we send men up there. So yeah, no question about it. This would be a great advantage.
Yeah.
And this is what has to happen before we send people up there as well.
I agree with Nagon. It has a lot of deep learning applications.
Yep.
And a lot of adaptability. Basically, I can see this in rough terrain areas, especially if you have disaster areas. You can use this in rescue missions, or even look different areas. Even when you have a huge forest fire or something, this basically looks into situations and develops, using the algorithm, deep learning algorithm develops adaptable action to basically carry out before you send a human into it. It's good in basically collecting a lot of data, especially when you're dealing with rough terrain, rough areas. I mean, this is perfect. Again, it's lightweight, adaptable, and so again, this is a perfect deep learning situation where you can apply deep learning equations and deep learning algorithms into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. Absolutely. I personally think it has to be done. This is what would be the smart move first. I think this would definitely have to be done before we send anyone up there. And know what you get a good, look on the ground and know what's going on really well before we send any people there, because the people who are going to be there are going to get a lot of other information that's going to certainly be be very. I would say that would be very detailed, but primarily send these up for sure.
Yeah, Boston Dynamics has multiple robots. This is just one of them, right? The thing is, you have to send them in sort of like a platoon. You have the you have these sort of these spot robots. Although they move at 3 to 5 miles an hour, it's still a considerable speed in some of these foreign lands, right? That's actually pretty considerable for what it does. You would also
walking speed, right, Mike? Would that be like a walking speed, 3 to 5 miles an hour? That's walking, right?
Yeah, if you're trying to spit game, but you need to move a little faster.
Oh, Jesus. Oh my God. Anyway.
let me go to Boston Dynamics site, because I think they do have some pretty good products.
And with this robot, you can see a lot of not only one technology being applied to it. You can see IoT, you can see a lot of machine learning, deep learning. And also one big aspect will be transfer of data, because the goal is to make sure these robots collect data, but also transfer it as soon as possible, real time. So 5G can play into part. So all these technologies, you can see it being applied in front of you with these robots itself.
Yeah. Let's look at the robots. You have Spot, you have Handle, which I think is pretty interesting, how fast he moves. I don't know if anybody's seen that video we covered. Pick is interesting as well. And then you have Atlas, right? This sort of juggernaut Negro, man, who just like leaps from a trap house in a single bound. Look at this guy, man. Look at this dude. Unbelievable. Look at that shit. That shit is unreal. Jay,
that shit is crazy.
Yeah, Jay, how is this possible?
Couple mechanical engineers, couple electrical, many technicians.
Yeah, I would say it's more like game, right?
The game. But yeah, you got a game, but that is real game right there. Boston Dynamics, they've been highly butter laid over the last few years. They've produced a lot of off the chain type of stuff. Mm-hmm. Oh, hey, go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing. Mm-hmm. But
and I'm seeing a lot of material science in there, with lightweight materials basically constructed into it to give it a more agile.
You got to.
Yeah, the material. There's a lot of the materials basically utilized in basically building it will be lightweight.
Yep.
So basically a lightweight polymer that's actually really strong, because I've dealt with some polymers that have really high tensile strength. But yeah, some of those will be implemented in this.
Mm-hmm. This is just crazy, man.
This is insane. You got to figure
No,
another 20, 25 years of this kind of development at this pace. You're gonna have people. You're gonna have these bots walking around looking just operating just like us. You know,
They already do though. They already do. I mean, this dude just did the boogaloo a few minutes ago. So
he sure did. He sure did. I mean, it was Cole swaggering out there. And this is crazy. I mean, this is really crazy. This is where we're at.
They're picking up 10-pound boxes. I mean, you got brothers in the manosphere who work for Instacart. Like, yo, your job is in jeopardy, fam.
Yeah, that's
Your
a
job
fact.
is in jeopardy.
I was watching the Twilight Zone. It was the other night. It was funny. One of those episodes from the 50s, around 59 or so, and they had it was one of these crazy episodes. But once again, AI was cranking even back then. They had a family of a guy who had his wife, and he was kind of sequestered a little bit from humanity, and he had these servants around him. And then ultimately, his daughter was getting mad at one of the servants because they were just acting literally like they were just too happy where they were. She threw one of these robots down the stairs. It wasn't even a robot. It looked like a regular person, and fell down, did this terrible fall, then got up, started smiling, and just got up and kept moving around. And then she was like, these are robots. And these were robots that this guy created for his household living situation. Mm-hmm. And it was AI. I was like, look at this, man. They were talking about AI back 60 something years ago. Mm-hmm. 60 years ago, and here they are, AI, robotics all day long, and the robots were looking and operating just like human beings, and they were programmed, and this is all machine learning and everything. It was crazy. So I was looking at that in Twilight Zone, 60 years ago. This is what people have been thinking about. So nothing new here. Nothing new here. I think this is here now. The way this robot is moving, and the way these. You had shown Boston Dynamics before, where you had that one robot that was just leaping and jumping all over everything and just moving.
This is it right here. This is it right here.
Yeah, it was looking insane. I was like, look, what is it? So I don't know, man. A lot of jobs that people are doing now are gone. They don't even know it. They're already gone. Their replacements are here right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at this, and the dude with the hockey stick, he kind of treats him like he's some kind of incel or something, right? He treats the robot like it's an incel. Look at knock the package down, and then he balls up his fist. Imagine that, right? He balls up his fist and gets mad, and he's stomping around, right? Look at him, man. He looks like one of these content creators, man. I won't mention their name. Probably the same height as him.
Oh no.
Look at the way he pushes them back, man. He gets heated, man.
He's tight.
Why I oughta write in a kisser.
Why I oughta.
Shazam.
Oh God.
But though it's funny, but it's the application is wonderful. Basically, in terms of testing its precision of accuracy and all that. It's funny in terms of Mike, but looking at it, the precision of accuracy of the robot is fascinating.
But I over, man. Took his potato puffs from lunch. So.
But the reality is, you can see some jobs are gone.
That's unbelievable, man.
Some jobs are just gone.
He's mad. Who knew a robot can have emotions, man? I thought that was only on the show The Transformers, man. When Starscream used to get heated.
Yeah, yeah. Robot tight. Yeah, he tight. What? Get out of here. You acting like a nigga. You like niggerism? Oh yeah, the robot tight. He tight. Mm-hmm.
God, that thing is fast, man.
Look at that shit. Wow. Hey, Mike, how far is this from where you are?
Oh, probably about 25 minutes. Unbelievable, man.
Unbelievable, man.
You got
I
guys.
mean-
You got guys in the manosphere who can't even tie their own shoes. Got to use Velcro straps, you know, to keep the shoes.
It is bad boy spitting and breaking.
Hey, man.
This is a whole new game.
Oh, there's that word again, game.
Oh, game.
shit.
Speaking of game, we got MOT on the panel.
MOT.
What's up?
What's going on, Pam?
Whoa, wait a second. He just went right down the stairs, man.
But you remember Honda had a robot out in the 90s. You all remember that Honda robot, remember?
Yeah, Ice-Mo.
Yeah.
That was out in the 90s.
Whoa. That's nuts, man.
They started taking these robots and put flesh on them. I mean, whatever types of synthetic flesh they put on them and do the facial type of stuff that the Japanese stuff have right now. You're gonna have robots dipping around. Literally, you're gonna have the Terminator type of thing going on right here, right now. Exact same shit. You're gonna be seeing that. Robots dipping around.
You remember that robot patrol dog? I think DE Raptor sent us 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
They're just like patrolling the forest and stuff. Like, come on.
Oh yeah, that was Spot.
Yeah.
Same company. I mean, the fact that his arms could actually go horizontal like that. Imagine if they were guns, right? He just spun around. The military application behind this is crazy.
Forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna be watching war on TV via cameras.
Yeah, with VR headsets. I mean, he got the ability to pick up 100 pounds. I mean, what's a M4 weigh? About what, 20?
20 pounds?
16 to 20. Yeah, 16.
Yeah.
Well, loaded, probably 20 with
fully loaded.
Fully loaded.
Well, yeah, fully
about 20, 22.
Mm-hmm.
And think of its medical application in terms of war zone. It can basically carry a soldier or military personnel to basically. So the application is endless.
Mm-hmm.
Endless. What about when you start adapting these things to the aquatic environment? And and what kind of applications will you see there as well? This is crazy.
Yeah.
Whole new game. Whole new game. It's a new game.
What were you gonna say, MOT?
I say, but if we just stop all this and focus on game, we'll be better off.
Game.
I wonder what the battery life is like on these things.
I think they said 2 hours.
Okay. Guess they're gonna have to work on that.
Man, like 2-hour Terminators, man. They go in and they go out.
What about when you start to really have these things powered by solar power and so forth?
Oh yeah.
It wouldn't be solar. It would actually, you would have contactless charging, right? So the floors would have all sorts of contact tracing.
Yeah.
Kind of charges as it moves along.
Yeah, there you go.
I forgot to send you guys that article that I saw the other day that they found this material that can produce solar power. I think shoot, how did they put it now? But it's almost from background radiation, and they were testing it. I'm gonna find it again.
It's like the real life John Henry, man.
That is real life John Henry. And see, if you really want to start to use Tesla's principles, where he was grabbing a lot of electricity just out of the air, and just literally power and charging up from free electricity that might be flying around in the air, that, and being able to just harness that in a battery. Forget about it. You would just apply the battery, and that was it. You would have a permanent powering system just in the atmosphere alone, of which is something that Tesla was all about, but they tried to monetize it, and that's why Tesla basically got sandbagged. But you know, that was
Wait,
that.
sorry, can you repeat that? I missed what you said.
Say it again.
Your
No, I'm
mic-
just asking you to repeat what you
No,
said.
go.
Nicole-
Mic breaking up.
My mic broke up. I'm sorry.
Hey,
I
Nicole,
was-
if you really look at electricity, transmission of electricity, the Earth is charged. When you see what we call a lightning bolt, is actually the Earth discharging into the atmosphere.
Well, yeah, we you know, and it's free. You know, Tesla and them, they proved it. You know, that's what they were saying. Even you know why the pyramids were a power source, because you know it was basically designed to pull free electricity from the environment, and that's what Tesla kind of built his towers over. He built them over aquifers and was basically, you know, grabbing free electricity out of the air. You know, and
Yep.
they saw this work.
That's why there's so many pyramids all over the planet.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and I don't want to, you know, go off, but they sent a small robot into a hidden chamber that they just saw a couple of years ago, and they saw big giant copper wires that were looped into the ground, and it looked like there was a electrical diagram on the side on the wall. They looked at it and they kind of shut it down after that. So it just pretty much proved that's what it was, a giant power that I think was so powerful. I think it was a central communication system around the world, and all the other pyramids that were hooked up into it, and some of these other obelisks that were tuned to certain frequencies. I think these things were so powerful they were actually probably even able to transmit images. I think that's exactly what was going on back then, and it's which blows anything away that we talk about current today of what we thought these things really were. But anyway, free electricity is in the atmosphere, and you have that all over the place. And a robot or something else like this could be powered by that as well. You know, by Tesla's technology, or what he thought was a way to freely power our society without costing us any money. And that was not the ideas that Morgan and them really had. They wanted to monetize this.
Oh yeah. General Electric wasn't trying to hear anything like that.
No, they were like, oh really? Okay, you're done, and let's find somebody who can really make us a lot of money on this. And that's what it was.
I'm just looking at the careers page. Curious to know what they're doing out there. Automation safety engineer. Yeah, and you know, this is a part of this fourth industrialization that we talk about a lot. If you're not competing in this area, you're pretty screwed at this point. You know, it says BS, MS in electrical, electronic, or mechanical engineering. Okay.
Right now,
A lot of PLC programming.
Yeah.
And that is so easy.
Yeah, PLC programming.
Just like a
if you're waiting, I don't know, probably 5 years down the road, there probably be still some of these jobs available, but with the number of what do you call it, machine learning, what would I call it now? They're creating a lot of machine learning tools. As these tools increase and the number of people in the market increase, then a lot of these jobs you're going to see a steady decrease in a lot of these jobs, because the computer itself is going to be doing what the dog and this robot just did. You know, they're going to be looking at the screen and deciding, you know what, hey, we make these changes here, we can make a different system altogether. You know, the computer is going to be thinking, and it is going to be thinking faster than the person.
And Mike, all these roles you're showing, it basically shows that the typical engineering role is evolving. It has to have some programming embedded in it. PLC program, HMIs. I've programmed PLC for a huge manufacturing facility, and it's not difficult, but you still need to understand it. So again,
Mhm. Yeah, I think he borged out. Somebody like Jay can probably chime in on that. I mean, I think he has a background in electrical engineering himself. Probably says,
Yeah, I mean, most curriculums. I mean, you start out with, well, in electrical engineering, I'll speak to that. You start out with your C++, and then you can venture out more if you decide to take that path. Me personally, I made a mistake, and after C++, I didn't really do too much more programming until I actually got, you know, into the job world.
yeah, because you don't necessarily, if it's not a part of your daily responsibilities, I mean, what else? I mean,
But it will be. But
yeah, I know what I'm
but
saying.
you just don't know at the time, you know.
Yeah, you don't. That's what I'm saying. If you don't really know, and it's not a part of your immediate responsibilities, it's like you got other, priorities on the table other than for C++, right? You could be doing something else, but,
Yeah.
but
at least I think I went to Virginia Tech. I think a data structures class should have been mandatory. That's one thing I would like them to change in the curriculum. That's something you definitely need, and I was lacking that when I went, on my first job.
Yeah,
like trying to understand this struct and this array and all this stuff. And classes and objects. I definitely needed a better background on that stuff.
Hardware test engineer. BS in electrical engineering or equivalent. Demonstrated experience using schematic capture and PCB layout software. Be able to clearly communicate test results and data. Sounds like game to me. I mean, clearly communicate. I mean, game is communication. It sounds all the same to me.
Yeah, why not?
Familiarity with low-level embedded firmware C. That's where it gets tricky, Jay.
No, man.
Yep. So
if that's a game with low-level stuff. Oh man.
Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. That's where the data structures come in handy.
Yeah.
So.
Did you?
And you know what? And they emphasize C++ too much. To be honest with you, yes. C is much more important for typical electrical engineer. I don't know why they push C++ so much.
Yeah, because most firmware is developed in C anyways.
Yep, exactly. Or assembly.
Yeah.
Depending on how low level you go.
Yeah.
So I don't understand that. We did learn assembly at Virginia Tech, so I'll give them that. We definitely had a good grasp of assembly before we left.
Yeah, Green Machine says he just got his PLC programming certificate. He just mentioned C#. C# is
that's getting really popular right now.
Yeah, because it kind of does everything that Java does, or what Java's capabilities were. Create and modify scripts to iterate testing procedures. Be happy to travel offsite to offsite facilities. Be happy. Imagine that. Be happy to travel.
Oh man, and my first job, we used to have to go to Taiwan, and for some reason nobody wanted to do it. I used to love it.
Yeah.
It's like a free vacation. But
well, yeah, you're ambitious, man. You're young and ambitious.
Yeah, man, staying in a 5-star, eating food, nice restaurants every night. I was like, you guys are crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hardware test engineer. I went to a vocational school, so for me, C, assembly, breadboard layouts, and building out circuits and stuff like that. That's kind of what you do in the first 6 to 7 months. I mean, that stuff is pretty intense for vocational schooling, but I encourage a lot of guys to actually go to vocational schooling because it's actually free depending on what your household income was. As long as your household income is less than 30,000, if like you're a young zennial, I should say, and you're kind of lost in terms of going to school and stuff like that, I think you should check out vocational schooling, because some of these vocational schools are really straight to the point when it comes to like electronics, electronics and electrical engineering. They're pretty straight to the point, because electrical engineering code is all the same across the country, pretty much the world. It's kind of standardized.
That's how it was when I was going to
have
school, man.
Would you say
out here.
I said that's how it was when I was going to school, man. Straight to the point, and didn't matter where you passed the test. If you couldn't pass them demonstrable competencies, they sent your ass right back to the course. Yeah.
Go ahead, Shashi.
Yeah, out in Northern Virginia where I'm at, there's certain areas, man. It's the schooling system out here is top notch, man. I'm talking about the government. I'm not even talking about private. So I mean, my nephews, I mean, they're pretty much in high schools like that, and I mean, by the time they get out, they're gonna be juniors. So I mean, they're already playing at that level out here in Northern Virginia for the most part, at government schools.
Yeah, you're so right. At Virginia Tech, most of the kids come from Northern Virginia.
Oh yeah,
I was from Georgia, and I remember the first C++ class I was telling you guys about. I was in there like lost as hell. Like kids were like, "Oh yeah, I did that in high school." Yeah. Like,
I think my oldest nephew's gonna be going there.
Was that skills gap because you came from Jamaica, or was that?
Well, I went to high school in Georgia, and I just didn't have anybody kind of showing me the direction in high school.
Oh man.
For example, I remember I told my counselor, I was like, I'm interested in engineering, this and that, and computers. She put me in a typing course. Meanwhile, I didn't know there were programming courses in my high school. So yeah, I don't know what was going on there, but I definitely wasn't as prepared as some of the other students. So there's a lot.
We need to go back to that for high school, man. We need to have more vocational schools that focus on machine learning and AI and stuff like that, man. You're waiting to send somebody to college, man, to spend money on, curriculum that could have already been embedded into the high school itself. It just seems really weird. That go ahead.
It's all based on zip code and of course that everything goes back to income, man. So I mean, I'm in Arlington County. So Arlington County, from Arlington County to Fairfax. I mean, yeah, coming from Rhode Island, what I saw in private schools, they're doing that out here and more in public schooling. So again, I mean, it's being done, but as usual, I mean, if the income levels aren't there, obviously, be it through property taxes, it's just not going to happen. I mean, yeah, we have the internet now, but I mean, in a physical location, I mean, again, your best bet, or the kid's best bet, is wherever the parents are living, man. So if they're living in a poor area, it's just going to be like, realistically, they will be stunted. It just is what it is. I mean, the internet has made the playing field somewhat more at an even, but still, because now, even if you're on the internet, you're still not really making those connections with the kids and or kids' family. So like, I'm just telling you, I'm seeing it right now. I'm like, shit, if I had this stuff when I was coming up, oh God, where would I be today?
See, that's the thing. Like when I was growing up, we had Radio Shack, right? And we had these sort of Radio Shack 35-in-1 kits, and you can get. I got one of those for Christmas every year. That's how I got into electronics, with soldering irons and stuff like that. The kits actually help accelerate, and help me understand the process better. But we don't have that stuff anymore to that extent. No more Radio Shack and stuff like that. I mean, you have like Magic Leap pads and stuff like that. I mean, that's cool and all, but it's nothing like tearing down the box, man. Tearing down one of those old Iowa radio boom boxes or something like that, man. And just going through all the innards and stuff like that.
Like they out here, they have I don't know exactly what they call it, but I know my nephew, this is right before I moved out here, a couple birthday parties, he and his friends, because they're like us. So it was basically like they were like doing like engineering stuff, but like at a freaking party. But this is at like a public location. So the level is that high out here. So I mean, literally, when they get out of high school, man, I just feel sorry for kids who aren't even at this level. They're not gonna be able to compete. It's just not gonna happen.
Well, that goes back to the original article with the black girl, 10 years old, the Nigerian girl.
Yeah.
She's teaching code. I mean, she's 10 now. You have to factor in the guy who made the kid who made what's the app that social media app that Yahoo bought, Tumblr.
Okay.
He was like 14 or 15 years old when he made Tumblr.
Yeah.
Became a multi-millionaire overnight. Yahoo bought it from him. So I'm saying this young Nigerian girl, she's gonna go places, man. You factor in she's 10 now. In 2030, she'll be, obviously she should be 20, but technology will be so radically different. Yeah. And she's going to be keeping pace with it. She's going to outperform all of these her counterparts.
At least at the minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have a mechanical technician contractor right here, position here. Practical hands-on experience with mechanical systems and fabrication. At least 4 years of professional experience in maintenance, installation, or service work in the related industry. Basic computer skills required. Experience with command line operating systems such as Linux, a plus. Attention to detail, self-motivated, and be able to work in a collaborative team-based environment with minimal supervision. Yeah, well, minimal supervision, that's a game. I can do that all day long. Nobody needs to tell me or look over my shoulder. I can spit. So,
and there's a shortage of technicians everywhere. Like every company I've ever worked at,
that's what
technicians.
You get an engineer who will come up with a drawing and hand it to this guy, and this guy goes off and makes it. He actually searches out whatever kind of equipment that he needs, what kind of circuit boards and everything, and create what the engineer has in his mind, and then see it works. Mm-hmm. That's basically what this guy does. He knows the engineer's job and he knows his job, but the engineer doesn't know his job. The engineer doesn't know the technician's job.
Jay's right. There's a shortage of technicians. The U.S. military used to turn out techs all the time, electronics technicians all the time, because they used to come off of the aircraft, the Air Force and the Navy.
Yeah. Keep them.
Yeah.
They could barely keep their like hackers. Whenever the Air Force teacher stuff, they gone. 4 years, they gone. Lockheed Martin or the CIA, they out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's why a lot of those schools closed down, because they wanted to get these guys into the military.
Mm-hmm.
People weren't going into the military at that time, so they had to find a way to get those people to go into the military, and the military would train them. When they come out, most of the guys that I came out with went to Saudi, Iran at the time, all over the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true. Some of the best techs I've ever worked with came out of the military. I don't know how they train them in there.
Yep. And they were getting, when I came out in 78, these guys are getting 100,000 then.
Yep.
So you can imagine what they're getting now.
I'll tell you how bad it's gotten. Like right now, they'll take anybody that seems decent and train them, because there's just not enough techs.
Who are you referring to, Jay?
Well, the companies I work for, like the company I work for now, like they've just been hired. Like anybody that they can pass a background check to be a tech, and they just train you because they're just short.
Yeah. Most of the robotics companies here are like that, or your autonomous driving companies and stuff like that. They are like that. The thing is, vocational schools, man, have just gone the way of the dodo bird, man. They dried up, man.
Yeah. Especially if you have the certifications like IPC and stuff like that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, ASC certified. What were you gonna say, Manager Mo?
I would say nothing.
Okay. I'm just going over this again, just to reiterate, this, UK, this Black Nigerian tech genius, 10 years old. And I thought this, the point they made earlier was, the tech field yields a large portion of high-paying salary jobs with numerous career paths. However, marginalized communities are shut out of these job opportunities due to the lack of resources and access. When you talk to hood conservatives, they never seem to come up with a policy to rectify something like this. If we just have more traditional, I'm not even going to get into it. But the point I'm making here is this: if they want to, solve this tech issue for Black people, you have to create the vocational programs, and it doesn't just necessarily have to be hardware. There needs to be a mental program. What's going on, man?
That's not me.
That's Nagone. That's Nagone.
Oh.
Yeah. You have to make the GED the base model, not to say the base model, but the standard, and then attach it to other sort of curriculums throughout the public institutions, like your not your community colleges, but your public libraries, right? There's a mass amount of books in there. There's all types of certificate programs. We should be creating these sort of programs from a public institution standpoint that says, you all live in this underserved community. These are the sort of programs that are going to be available. You get your GED, you get, electronics technician sort of certificate, so on and so forth. Like, that stuff should be easily accessible to most underserved communities.
Did you read the what's his name? Robert F. Smith. He had a little article in The Economist that recently came out. He was only on one page, but he basically spoke about that.
Yeah. We were going to talk about it's resources. Yeah. If you look at communities that the communities have a lot of resources, not that they don't have problems, but they don't have, some of the problems that communities that don't have resources do. So it's about resources. What Mike is talking about and what we've been talking about here is being able to supply resources to certain areas that don't have them, but yet now you can supply them there and then have people take advantage of them is what's going to take them a lot farther than, like you said, let's get together some families, or let's put in more cops and all this whack shit that we've seen is not any answer to anything. So it's about resources and having people access to them. And that's where you turn the corner. That's why, like I said, the Harlem school zone, they have now Silicon Harlem, which I'm trying to get a better beat on. To see exactly kind of how these guys are really organized. It seems like there's a lot happening there as well. And you have a lot of Black, you have some Hispanic and Asian students who are deeply involved in this now. But we're in there. It's kind of interesting to see that the Asians and the whites are getting in there as well. So they see the value of what we're doing.
Oh, they don't waste time.
And they're jumping in there. But it's about the resources that are supplied to your community that really that those are where your answers are. These hood conservatives and so forth, they're not talking about that because they don't have any answers. It's about going against Negroes. But in reality, if you're really about building something, it's about how do we get those resources into those communities, just like Mike's saying, the libraries and so forth, and really getting us just a basic level of just trying to, this is where you're going to get your GED at least, and then you can move into other types of vocational training and so forth that are really going to help you, move into these areas and move into these sectors and integrate into them a lot easier. These are the types of solutions that we have to be looking at. And I don't hear as much from these people about that than I hear of other things that are relatively useless.
The thing is,
go ahead,
Sashi.
Well, what I hear every time, especially from the other side, when I hear community, it's really not talking about community. They're really talking about neighborhoods and that's not going to really drive progress. I'm not sure if they're aware of that, because I mean, even out here, I mean, the library. I haven't gone to the library in a couple months, but no surprise, when I would swing in there for a book I just didn't want to buy, or a magazine I didn't want to buy, was predominantly in there. You know, which didn't surprise me at all. And I mean, I saw this, I wouldn't really call it a phenomenon, but I saw it in Rhode Island. I saw it in Connecticut when I lived there, and I'm seeing it out here as well. So, you know, the fact that we don't understand, you know, finances, that's one other thing. If you don't understand finances, how are you even going to know where the funds are going in your community, aside from just saying, well, we're just not getting the right books? That's not enough. You don't understand how property taxes and car taxes, this, that, and the third, actually funds, you know, these schools. Okay, so even when you learn that, you know, the parents still need to step up their game and earn more money as well, and become property owners so they can pay taxes, which would go back to their children.
Yeah, but Salchi, they waste a lot of money, of taxpayers' money on nothingness. Okay, they do that all the time. I don't think it should be incumbent on the you know, the people who are below the federal poverty level. I don't think it should be incumbent on them. I think that the you know, the city manager, state managers, they're the ones who handle all the fiduciary transactions in projects. And so they determine the civil engineering projects, what get funded and what doesn't get funded. You know, there's no excuse as to why a playground in 2019 cost $11 million and no one was able to vote on it in the neighborhood. No one was able to vote on it.
Damn, are you serious?
What?
There are multiple parks, city parks in Black neighborhoods that are over budgeted for engineering projects. Okay, a playground costs $500,000. A basketball court costs a couple $1 million, and a football field, soccer field costs up to $11 million. No one knows where the money is going because the city manager, who's unelected, is the one pushing these sort of agendas.
Oh, so they're just siphoning that money out. Clearly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, that goes on all the time. And so I brought this up to city council, and he said, you know, I said, why don't we take that $11 million and open up, you know, take over one of these defunct retail store outlets or whatever it is, take over it and turn it into a
magnesium or something.
A tech incubator. We can actually turn the neighborhood around. See, culture is determined by the environment, man. You got to change the environment before you change the culture.
Yeah, $11 million is a lot of money in that. $11 million.
Yeah, you could do a lot.
They had, you know, the water drinking, the fountains. This shit had piss in it, man. It didn't even work. Some asshole came by and pissed in it, man. And you know, you had to open up a ticket with the city to get it serviced, and that thing sat there for 6 months unserviced.
Wow.
This is crazy. Like, that's why I don't really hold poor people accountable in these neighborhoods, ultimately, because the city,
you know, you have to invest in something to get something out of it.
Yeah.
You can't expect the best for people just to be happy. I mean, like, are we really supposed to think that Mississippi is supposed to turn into New York? I mean, with no investment? Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Now, do you think on the private side, do you think creating your own a board of directors, you know, would be more efficient? Because I mean, personally, I don't expect the government to be efficient by design, but just to draw in the brain, you know, the brain power, and eventually funds, I think that would be fast. That would be more efficient.
My position to city council members were and people on the board, basically, we need our own chamber of technology committee or fourth industrial committee that can oversee all of these things, appropriate the funds for it, and then we plan it out and we do it on our own. It should be left up to the city, who doesn't, you know, people who don't even look like us and don't live in our neighborhoods are determining what goes on in our neighborhoods. And it's like, yo, that's not a true democracy, man. What is this?
Yeah, they're not gonna have your best interest. It's just not gonna happen. And I do remember, I forget the Chinese, it's a couple of years ago, minister, he flat out said it, which made sense. He, publicly he stated, of course I want my people to get the best. And I basically applauded him. I was like, I don't freaking blame this guy. Of course the Americans were upset that he said that, but I was like, but don't we kind of do the same thing like everybody else? Mm-hmm. So, what you're saying that with, poor neighborhoods, I see what you're saying, but they're going to have to fight and compete, unfortunately, at the level of, the neighborhoods that have the resources.
Right. You're right.
I'm not. Yeah, I mean, they're going to need to do that, and that's really up to the parents, not the kids. Mm-hmm. I understand. Your income is low, and you made some poor, mating decisions. But do you really love your children? And I've gotten a lot of flack for saying stuff like that, but it's true. Like, if you supposedly love your children, you would supposedly die for your children. Why aren't you fighting for their education?
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Most of these people don't know what's going on, and they just go about their daily life. But you need a committee. You need a urban committee, a planning committee, or something like that communicates with city officials to understand what's going on. Because
get those guys elected. Sorry, bro.
Say that again.
No, I said, how do you get those guys elected? Like, I live in DC, and my city councilman is pretty horrible, but he's winning by huge margins. Like, it's ridiculous.
I don't know, man.
And they're actually candidates that are pretty serious, like guys like us, and those guys are getting like 1% of the vote.
DC politics is like nothing else in this country. It's a different ball game. But I'm saying you need something like what they have in Stockton, California, under Mike Tubbs, the seed program, the Stockton Economic something development program. That's how they're able to appropriate UBI funds for the UBI program, pilot program. You need something like that where you can appropriate those funds, receive them, and then distribute them in a way that's going to be beneficial to the upcoming projects. What I've been saying is that we need a community trust system, similar to like a public bank, where the funds, if we're going to divest from the police departments, $4 or $5 million, $10 million, doesn't sound like a whole lot, but if you take those funds and put it into a community trust system, you can actually do a lot more with it. Some people just want to divest from the police or defund the police just to defund them, just to punish them and take away your money. Well, they're just going to run up the tab somewhere else.
Yeah. That's exactly correct. That money has to be. That's what we talk when we talk about defunding. Take the money because it's proven you don't really need that many police. You just don't need them, and they don't do a lot as far as the crime issue. They do very little, in fact, in that regard. This is pretty well proven. Mm-hmm. What you need to do is take money from there and put it into programs that you can invest in people where you're going to reduce crime and certainly increase opportunities. And we know educational programs do that. We know this. We know in communities that are poor, even, that have good schools in them, or well-funded schools that may be federally funded, that are good schools, that they call them oasis in the desert, people have an opportunity to feel like they've got a chance to get out of there. And then education is going to help them to do that. And Black people are very aspirational with respect to that. So you have to give them opportunities. We know this. Mm-hmm. So this is what we should be doing, because we know that works. And it's about resources. And if you got a good school where people can get a good education, then that goes a long way in solving your problems. We found that crime really is closer to lack of education, lack of money. So even though the two do work very closely together here in this country, because as we say, property taxes and so forth do pay for it. But if we were to take all these billions of dollars that are going towards militarizing police forces and making them into armies, which are absolutely useless for our needs. Put that money, take that money away from them, get that out of their hands, and put it more towards the community to educate and have different types of programs that people can get involved in post education. Then you'll find a tremendous return on that investment. That's how it is. Just like if you have your own kid, put money behind your own kid, put money behind them, get them into school, get them a good education. You're going to more often than not, you are going to get a very good result.
I agree.
Huh.
It's about tangibles, man. It's about getting tangibles. I think the the problem with a lot of these discussions is that it always revolves around these sort of traditional ideas of capitalism, but in reality, we don't really have a proper capitalist structure, and so you have to come up with an alternative system. And that's why platforms like Ujima even emerged in the first place, because the system didn't work.
Yeah. And then they talk about capitalism. You have a crony capitalist system, which is not a pure capitalist system. You have a crony capitalist system where certain people are invited to come in and be capitalists. Others aren't. And now you don't really have a capitalist system. Even though you try to call it capitalist, you're kind of dealing in a somewhat socialist system, or even a neo-feudalist system or a feudalist system. And that's kind of where you're at, and a lot of people don't understand these dynamics, but they talk these platitudes. They just don't understand in many respects what they're talking about with respect. This is a big part of our problem. This is why we're having the issues we're having today across the board. And that's just not just only in the Black community. We're not the only ones we're the ones who are suffering worse from it, but we're not the only ones as well. But anyway, go ahead. I think somebody else was going to say something. I don't know if it was MOT.
No, let me share my screen real quick. This is from Ujima. This was the case study for safety beyond policing. We don't need, let me expand this out. We don't need more cops. We want strong communities. Communities of color are being systematically over policed while also being displaced by rising rent and gentrification. We must repair. Excuse me for a second. Sorry.
What in the world?
Yeah, resources that help communities thrive, lift our social net, and also lower core drivers of crime. We demand investments in education, health, and safety for the people, determined by the people, and divestment of municipal time and resources from exploitive forces, including prisons, fossil fuels, surveillance, and exploitive corporations. So the campaign goal, we demand. Hold on one second. Sorry, we demand the city council invest the $97 million annual dollars proposed for 1,000 new cops towards resources that build strong communities. Our taxpayer dollars should be invested in some of the following examples: mental health, transportation. 100,000 New Yorkers are arrested for not paying fares annually. 24,000 misdemeanor fare evasion arrests in the subway in 2013 cost $42 million. Okay. Funds could provide 62,500 low-income New Yorkers with free train and bus access. Youth jobs training, jobs programming. New York Summer Youth Employment Program only employs 22% of its 132,593 applicants. A Chicago job program employs students at a cost of only $3,000 per student. Chicago program resulted in a 51% drop in violent crime arrests. Conservative, are you there in the chat, please? A similar NYC program uses police funding. A program using police funding could potentially employ 310,000 youth. So what they're proposing is that $97 million that would have gone to hiring 1,000 new cops, be used for these sort of initiatives. This is the fight that a lot of progressives are involved in. And
I mean, like
unfortunately,
summer job programs for like kids, rather than
Yep.
spending all this money on stupid shit.
yeah, but
As long as your grades were up, they weren't gonna let anybody do it. But yeah, there was part of getting your grades up, and like the school district where I'm at, you get a guaranteed government job where you make like $12 an hour during the summer, 20 hours a week, guaranteed.
Yeah, but the hood conservative says, if you just add more traditional families, this would solve everything. But in reality, it's $97 million being sent on 1,000 police officers to over police more Black communities, and then they'll tell you, what about Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, these are white boy talking points. I mean, we're wasting our time because we already know what the deal is. Talking to these guys, you're just wasting your time. They're fools, savages, leave them to their own devices. At the end of the day, we have to talk about real solutions. And these are the things that we know that work. And this has to be pushed more. We have to have more of these types of conversations. But we know it works. We know how to educate our kids as well. We know it works. The name of the game is just we have to politically put this into place. And that's what's very important as why they don't want you voting, why they don't want you conscious about what's going on in your community, and why they don't even want you even like demonstrating, because they have their plans, and their plans are an economic social plan that doesn't include the best type of outcomes for you. So they're going to over police and do these kind of things in your community that they know is not going to help your community grow and be productive. They know that. Okay. We know for a fact that as Mike has pointed out here with his articles and so forth, that's why we have these articles so we can read and speak about what's going on. That these programs that come into your community that ultimately start to work, we see the results. Just these job programs and so forth that come in there, that reduces crime in itself. Resources.
Yeah.
Communities that have less crime and less problems have more resources. Okay, you come in my community where I am, there's a hell of a lot of resources up here. There are no police. None at all. You don't see them. People police themselves. There's no problems like that. Okay. You go to other communities that have a large amount of problems. They don't have resources. That's what we're talking about. More resources reduces all of that. And it's just that simple. That's really what's going on. These others who are haters, savages, miscreants, and everything, and other type of fools. This is the stuff that they say because they don't think. They don't read. They don't do any research. They don't look at anything that's going on in your community that works. And they have no interest. They're not going to be involved in that type of conversation. They're not going to be involved in the solution. It's not within their interest. They have a different goal. Their goal is
not only just the resources. If your kid is out running the street till 11, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock at night, this 9-year-old kid, 10-year-old kid, and you don't make this butt sit down in a house and do some work. I mean, you've got a computer at home that you can find all kind of work on now. I mean,
but if you're in these programs that are having kids in school and having them engaged and having them involved, we see kids get involved with this stuff heavily themselves. Not to say that
it's been proven right here. It says Chicago Jobs Program employed students at a cost of roughly a cost of only $3,000 per student. Okay, Chicago program resulted in 51% drop in violent crime arrests.
These kids will gravitate to it. Not to say that parents don't play a role. We understand that. A lot of us are working class people. A lot of us are working, hardworking, going to jobs and getting paid little money for it, but working regardless. That's what the Black community is. It's a working class community. That's exactly what it is. And so you have to provide a structure for these kids. Yes, you have to have your parents that are around, but you also have to provide the resources for them to take advantage of that as well. Kids see that. Kids are smarter than you think. I see kids making smart decisions all the time. And you put a lot of these kids in front of situations that are going to be beneficial to them. Many of them, most of them are going to get involved. And we know this. That's what I'm saying. This is not guesswork anymore. This is we understand how this works. The name of the game why people want to keep them out is to keep your community chaotic, because there is a vested interest in feeding the military, the prison industrial complex that feeds into these other complexes, and you're the substrate. You are the fodder for this. So there's a lot of interest. I saw even where they had the Operation Ceasefire, which was very successful bringing crime down in the area. That got defunded as soon as Trump came in. He defunded that program, knocked it out of the box. Crime, said crime's going to go up, and let's bring in troops. Forget about funding what we know has worked. Let's cut that funding. Let's bring in troops.
I don't argue with conservatives. I don't argue them because they come with these talk, but the black conservatives don't understand what the people are talking about. They're talking about small government, and they cutting the education.
They're not even conservative.
From that education, they same black brothers that they're trying to cut the education from. Guess who benefits from the health care that they're trying to cut out? The same black people that these black conservatives, whatever they want to call them, they come with these white people talking points. Don't understand what these white people are talking about.
Exactly. They don't know that. That's why I ask them. Have you ever looked at the conservative? What I consider the conservative manifesto was laid out by Barry Goldwater, and what these guys really talked about, and then look at what those tenets are. Then look at what's really going on, and it's a joke. It's a joke. That's why I don't even debate with them at this stage. Nope. If you haven't done that, there's no use even talking about it.
Finish with that foolishness. I'm tired of talking to people who realize that they don't have the education that needed to have a discussion.
No. But then again, remember that type of education takes a little work. It takes a little time to put the effort into to read and do what you need to do to understand it. It's not that difficult, but they're not even going to.
Well,
anyway, I'm done. But you're right on the money, DE. Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so you're talking $97 million, man. You're talking close to $100 million. Okay, this is money that's publicly supported. Now you talk to the conservative, okay, and they don't even want to have that conversation. They rather talk about Lori Lightfoot, or they rather talk about BLM, but they don't want to talk about this. 1,000 new cops, $97 million, man. That's a lot of money. You can fund a lot of startups with $97 million. In fact, you can create an incubator, a tech incubator, to solve a lot of the social issues in your community, what we call social enterprises. Okay, social enterprises that focus on making money at the same rate of solving social impact, or having a social impact. And so you can create your own Silicon Valley in your own Black neighborhoods with this much funding. $11 million on the playground, $97 million on 1,000 new cops to over police predominantly Black neighborhoods. This is what, this is what type of stuff that progressives fight for. Conservatives, would rather say, well, look at Chicago.
No matter what, even if we're in Africa, we still got to go back to Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Our road leads back to Chicago.
Yeah.
And until we fix Chicago, we can't talk about nothing else on the planet. But you have to realize that a lot of these people are caught up in the fact that they get to humiliate Black people over their condition in the United States. And that's far easier than actually researching the actual ideas in history. Like picking up talking points and running with them, mm-hmm. knowing because they're caught up in that humiliation fetish that conservatives actually follow themselves. As long as there's perceived pain by somebody, it's a good thing for me. Mm-hmm. Just to see pain. It doesn't matter if it don't make any sense. It doesn't mm-hmm. matter. And yeah, because it's just like right now, those people are perceived to be enemies of the state. So it's okay to go over there and gas mayors while they're giving actual talks within their own city. This is okay with them. Mm-hmm. This is okay with them. But when Hurricane Katrina was happening and the guns were getting taken away, they're like, oh, up in arms, what might do? It's the same government. But I was like, well, we want the government to be as big as it wants to when it comes to destroying life, but small as it needs to be when it comes to protecting life.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, camouflage soldiers in urban areas, but you know, let's not talk about abortion.
This is why I say the Department of Homeland Security need their own uniforms. I don't want you looking like the United States military doing all that nonsense out there. I want you to look like the Department of Homeland Security. I don't care. Dress them in red.
Yeah, but they do have their own uniforms, MOT. They have their own uniforms, no different than a urban police officer.
Yeah.
They have their own uniforms. For whatever reason, they choose camouflage. I find it to be hilarious because they're using battlefield camouflage. Where are you going to blend in that in next to a gray building? It doesn't make any sense. Somebody must have got a sweetheart deal designing those uniforms. So, and so we look at this, this bullet here. It says social benefits of reduced crime were estimated at $1,700 per student. A similar program using police funding could potentially employ 310,000 youth. This is what progressives fight for. All this stuff about rainbow flags and stuff, that's not exactly progressive, man. This is progressive. If it doesn't have a working agenda to advance people, it's not progressive, man. It's not progressive. I don't know why so many people have such a difficulty understanding this. Everybody wants to reduce it to the lowest common denominator that they can find, and then say, well, this is what you guys are about, or this is what you guys support this. No, I support this right here. This on screen. This is what I support. $97 million is a lot of money to be reinvested into a community.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people try to put the progressive idea, and then they'll call you a liberal, not even truly know what a progressive is, and not understanding what a liberal is either. So, like I said, and they're not trying to understand this stuff. They're actually not even trying to understand. That's not important. The name of the game is just to be out there blabbing and saying dumb shit and trying to push an agenda with a lot of other ignorant people who don't know it either. So they try to, use that. And I understand what that's about. But when you start talking about progressive agenda and what this is about, this is what we're talking about. What's going to progress us and move us forward? Where are our answers? We know what our answers. And this is what we have to push more on. And then we start seeing the pushback. And they're
yeah, Mike is breaking up a lot, Nagone.
Better educated for us to improve our community.
Yeah,
Mike, go ahead.
Yeah. Somebody else trying to jump in? I was just pointing out that this is just an example of how things get done, sort of fights we get into. I was a part of Ujima at the beginning of the Black Brain Trust, before we even had the name Black Brain Trust. I was a part of it, and so I was on the ground, boots on the ground when this stuff was going on, and so I saw. That's why I'm bringing it up, because I remember this stuff vividly. The fights that we had, building agendas and stuff like that, progressive agendas. And so you talk about divesting from the police and reinvesting and where your tax dollars are going. These are the sort of fights that we have to put up. And I think a lot of times, most people who are having these discussions in the manosphere don't really have a working idea of tax policy and other forms of policy, just policy in general, because everything is Wikipedia. Everything is Noogle. You see right here, the NYCHA funds could increase resident associations by $281,437 in all 334 NYCHA buildings. Educational programming, and workforce development for adults and youth. But that's where the vocational aspect comes in at. So if you want more electronic technicians and electrical engineers and electronic engineers, computer engineers and stuff like that, you're going to need that $97 million, man. The money's there, it's just not being appropriated. So support resident watch programs to appropriate cameras and lighting. Yeah. There's a lot of old light bulbs out there, you know, in most predominantly Black neighborhoods that are just out. I was watching a city council member talk about why the neighborhoods were so dark. Well, because they didn't have any lights. Municipalities just ignored it. You know, why is so much trash on the ground? There's no trash cans. Who knew? Something as simple as sanitary services were being neglected. And so this is what people fight for. Rael in the chat says, do Black people really need programs to do what is basic to human existence, which is being productive? How can you be productive, Rael, if the resources aren't there? Riddle me that, please.
Well, you see that phenomenon everywhere around the world, really, where there's very little resources in our education. So it is, you know, it is what it is. That's why I always personally say that, yeah, they may not have the resources, but they're going to have to come together and quite literally fight for those things, because if they don't, they have no chance, literally, because you already don't have the resources, but at least have the heart and have the will and worth ethic, because that's all you have left. And that is, yes, that is basic. You don't need money to do that. But if you're not doing that, at least as a community, well, then, you know, how else will you draw in the resources or excuse me, the money? So that's really what he should have asked.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean,
because,
we look at pork. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, because I'm only 37, but I mean, I remember the 90s, man. Like it was cool to be the best version of yourself as a kid. Like I vividly remember it. I remember competing on a basketball court, football field, in school, and it was cool to want to win. It's not cool to actually want to be a winner anymore, which I find very troubling.
Yeah. Raul says every city council gets funding through local taxes and federal tax dollars. Resources are there, but many resources are wasted because taxes are viewed as money that will always be there. Anybody want to take that on?
Well, again, it depends on the area and how it's ran.
Mhm.
Of course, people on average, okay, we're only going to look at averages. People who have higher post-high school education, on average, make more money. On average, live in similar communities, which on average, because they're making more money and they can afford a better house and they are driving more expensive cars and they're paying taxes on both those things, yeah, by basic math, they're going to have more funds going into the system. It's really that simple. That's how that's how it works. The problem is in the inner cities, unfortunately, a lot of the parents, and this stuff is usually generational, they're more focused on entertainment. So while they're being entertained and passing it on to the kids,
Hold on a second. We're way off the mark here, man. Okay, we're way off the mark. Let's put this on track. It's just not the parents who are looking to entertain and spend more money on liquor and alcohol and all that shit.
Cool. I wasn't gonna go on the liquor part, but
I'm just gonna put this thing where it needs to be. The monies that come into your communities, all right, that's supposed to be earmarked for certain places, go to the wealthier communities. That's where they go. They go to the areas that pay more property taxes. They go to the areas that have more resources there. They push towards and put into their schools. White kids sit here and talk about, oh, you get government. More money comes into the white school systems than it comes into the black school systems. They will close down schools in your side of town and will keep those schools open up, and they'll get all the funds. So the wealthier, more politically stronger, active parts of your community get the money. You don't. Okay, that's how that works. That's where that comes down to. Doesn't come down to Negroes don't want to do this or Negroes don't want to do that. Or the money's there. They just want to hang out and jimmy the money up. That's a fucking lie. And that's been a lie, been told for a long time. That money goes to the wealthier communities. That's where it goes. They take it. They take more federal dollars than you can sit down and think about. But that's where it goes. And they try to keep it from coming to your area. Why? Because there's more resources. So these schools have the biggest and the best going. They do. Scarsdale High School, okay, is sitting around there with one of the most advanced looking high schools you've ever seen. Okay, but you can go across town or go all the way down, maybe say the Yonkers High, or even schools like Saunders, which was a trade school that got closed down. They didn't get that kind of bread. All right, but the other big wealthier schools got them. That's just how it goes. Money begets money. You don't have money, you don't get it. So these terrible communities, let's say in Baltimore, where your councils and all that have a lot of black folks and all, supposedly. But when you start looking at Silver Springs and some of these other areas, or you start looking at areas that are just a little bit outside of the Baltimore, get into the Baltimore suburbs, all right, those schools are great. But the downtown Baltimore schools and so forth are fucked. Why is that? It's a simple question. Why is that? Because these people want to sit back and hang out and drink and hang out and party? You better take another very close look at what the fuck is going on in this system, and stop bullshitting your fucking selves and look at this thing for what it is.
We know in Chicago that took the money from the black schools in Chicago and gave it to the white schools, and that's why that's why the white schools had Olympic-sized swimming pools and Olympic-sized racetracks at their schools, even though the black schools did not have that. So the money that was appropriated for those black schools actually got divested into the white schools.
They get moved, and the political structure plays that. That's what you're dealing with.
Can I ask you guys a question?
It's power. That's what you're looking at.
Go ahead, RJ.
What's your opinion on like the vouchers and school choice? Because some people tote that as a solution to issues in some of the inner cities.
I think that has worked in the past. And here we have Metco, and Massachusetts we have Metco, and it took black kids from predominantly black neighborhoods and sent them to white schools, and actually those kids actually turned out to be much better off when they had access to those schools. And so, but what did happen is that they ended up they were leaving their neighborhoods, and that was a problem. So you had a brain drain with that. I think it can work. I think it's all dependent on each area, though, each region and stuff like that. That's my take on it.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead, MOT.
It does work. I mean, it's about funding.
Yep.
I mean, if you spend the money to get a specific type of result, you're gonna get it. If you defund and try to figure out ways to put police in the area, then you're just not gonna get it. I mean, what we should have been doing was suing for equal protection stuff when it came to this school stuff, and that's what pretty much should have got it out of the hands of the BS version of what do you call it, property taxation, in order for you to get equal inputs or outcomes, because that's just a blatant violation of equal protection under the law. I'm not sure why it has not even been challenged on that specific ground.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else have any answers for Jay?
Yeah, I mean, because the actual going conservative philosophy is that money is speech when money is property, and everybody don't have the same property like everybody have the same speech.
Exactly.
So that's the problem. But you know, when you don't want to study history and the only thing you're doing is you're caught up in trying to humiliate liberals all the time, and you just stick to the talking points that everybody else use, and you treat yourself like you're are an informed individual. They wouldn't even allow these people on TV, radio, anywhere. They don't allow us to kind of deliberate ignorance to destroy their entire society. It's crazy.
That's why redlining was such a powerful tool in setting this system up that you have today. That's why history matters. That's why it's so important, because that's what economically, from an economic segregationist perspective, that's what that meant. And therefore, it affected your education, it affected your health, it affected everything that you have. We can, you know, you can break down lifespans and educational levels down to zip codes. So, and especially when it comes that are in segregated communities, this is what happened. You were segregated by your own government, and they redlined you, and you were not able to have the type of resources that other communities are having. It's still, so it plays out to this very day. That's when I hear people talking about, why we talk about history?
Uncle Uncle
Uncle Nagone. Oh he says some gems. Yeah.
I mean, but you know, the purpose of them having a conversation is to
but
walk
this
away
is
from
why
it.
you have the situations the way you do. This is why you have this is what you're looking at. But for those youngsters who are in your mid-30s, who are my children and do not understand history, because we got guys that are my kids' age that have studied this and understand it well. But for those who have not, you guys are you guys have a lot of work to do. You have a lot of work to do. You have a lot of work to truly to understand the republic or that you actually live in. Many painfully do not. But this is the reason why you see these things happening. I mean, all of this stems from something. But anyway, all right, go ahead, MOT. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's just that you can't have a proper setting of the table if everybody wants to knock over the table as soon as you come to it. Like, they don't have even a vested interest in even learning about history. Because if they learned about history, they wouldn't be where they are. So they deliberately set the table so that way they don't have to learn about anything, but they have strong absolutist opinions about things that they don't know the historical context of. I mean, it's nothing but cowardice dressed up as inaction. It's crazy.
Mhm.
I mean, like, where are their policy debates about what are they proposing? I mean, the only thing they want the government to do is hand out tax cuts and kill citizens. The same big government that they don't want to take care of people. Like, doesn't make sense, dude.
No, that's why I said we need our own committees that oversee things like this. And what's this? Freedom cities. They took the bull by the horns and went at this. But the hood conservative would never suggest an idea like this. Just get rid of abortion and practice more family planning. That would solve everything.
Leaving feminism in place, and it'll work well.
Yeah, don't pull out on time. Don't pull out on time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, imagine this right here, right? 24,000 misdemeanors, misdemeanor fare evasion arrest in the subway in 2013 cost $42 million. You spent $42 million arresting people for jumping the turnstile, or allegedly they jumped the turnstile. I mean, it's just insanity. It's some of the things that they're willing to do. So, but if you're a Mazunga and you're smoking weed in Central Park, Not a big deal. You know, we'll ignore you, and we'll give you a mask too, just to protect yourself. It's unbelievable, man. All right, let me close out. I think we're way past the mark. But thank you for joining us. Go ahead.
History is important. History is important. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you all for joining us, and hit the like button if you have not already done so. And shalom, everyone.